true, full expression of love is without limit. Welcome to day 236 and tell I'm a YouTube millionaire. So I had my writing session, as I do every Tuesday, barring unforeseen circumstances, with my friend Kara yesterday. And it was very productive, as it almost always is. But I got to asking her an important question, a question that I am broaching at this particular section of my story. And really it's replete throughout the story, but I'm especially honing in on it right now because I'm trying to grapple with it myself. The difference between loving someone and being in love. And when I brought this up to her, she told me that there are several different types of love. Platonic, familial, romantic, etc. And I submitted to her, well, more accurately, I probed more to give a better, fuller definition of what those different types of love are. And she could not define it. Now, love, by definition, the Catholic definition, and the one I follow, is to will the good of the other. Meaning of life being love means that the meaning of life is to will the good of the other. Your personal pattern reflected upon that meaning is how you love, or how you will the good of the other. And if you don't will the good of the other, then you do not love. And she couldn't discover the answer to this question. She was grappling with it and was confused, and she said, I'll get back to you on that, which is what you should do when you don't know something. Just admit it. Have the humility to say that you don't understand something. Something that so few of us nowadays have, because we're afraid of falling victim to imposter syndrome. You're given a certain position of authority and power or understanding, and suddenly you don't know something. You feel like you shouldn't be there. That's for somebody who lacks confidence. You need not be victim to imposter syndrome. Just say, that's something I have not broached yet. I do not have the answer to that. Because even professionals, doctors of philosophy or medical doctors or what have you, don't know everything. And they know to say, the good ones anyway, I don't have the answer, I'll get back to you. But the reason I bring this up is because I say true love is limitless. To will the good of the other is without limit. That is, you limitlessly want to will the good of the other, and you want to will the good of the other limitlessly, which means everybody. You want to make everyone's life better. Not just yourself, not just one individual, what have you. And it's been said, one of the biblical arguments as to why every single one of the kings in the Bible had multiple wives, one of the arguments, and this is not to say the only one nor the correct one, nor to say that there's only one correct one, is because they were protecting their wives. They had multiple wives because those wives needed protection, needed to be protected, to be safe. And you need not look any farther than, I forget who it was in the Bible, I'll have to look it up, but one of the people in the line of Jesus might have been Abraham, told people who were questioning him on a woman that was with him when he was traveling that that woman was his sister, which technically wasn't a lie. It was his half-sister, because, desperate times call for desperate measures. Sometimes that ended up happening in the Bible, where, related individuals would get married and have kids and stuff. It's just desperate times, How do you think Adam and Eve did it? I don't know. But just saying. Anyway, he told them that she was his sister in order to protect her from the wiles of the people that were questioning them, because they would have perhaps unalived him if he had said to them she was his wife. They would have perhaps R-worded her, etc. And it was a difficult situation in which the king that questioned them found himself, because he almost sinned against God and would have been condemned to hell had he done that. And he got really mad. I think this was Abraham. You're going to have to look up the story, because I can't remember exactly who it was. I'm not a biblical scholar. I just am somewhat learned. But he would have been condemned to hell, and he got really mad at Abraham for it. Which is ironic, because he was trying to protect himself and his wife, and still would have ended up being unalived if he didn't navigate that situation properly. So, at the writing session yesterday, I brought this up to my friend Kara, and then I said to her, and I didn't realize this was going to have such a powerful, profound effect on her, because for me it's just the default state. I told her, for instance, these were the words, for instance, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. You see what I'm saying? And she was on the verge of tears after a few seconds. She didn't think that was possible. She didn't know or understand what love actually was. And it had inverted so many things in her life. It was that. It was that. And in the modern age, where we have infinite access to information, whether it's signal or noise, we are progressively becoming more and more victims of the rat utopia experiment. The reason the beautiful ones of the rat utopia experiment existed at all was because they got to a point in their utopia where vanity was at the top of the list of priorities. And the purpose of that was they were waiting for the tens, the Chadwicks, to run into them before they would give themselves to anyone. And then when that happened, they would still think that there was somebody better. So they might give themselves to that Chadicus or whatever, but then run away because they're looking for somebody even better. It's the hypergamy, I think, that rats fall victim to just like we do, because they're mammals and very similar to us in a lot of ways, that leads to the downfall of such civilizations. This is happening in Japan, where you have all these angelic, elegant, beautiful-looking women that will not have sex. They get the ick by it. They're looking for that diamond of diamonds, and even then they're not even sure that they want to give themselves to that. They believe themselves to be 10s and that they deserve 11s. And honestly, I'll be completely honest. Many of those women are very, very attractive. I'm not gonna lie. They are. But even so, It's that limitation that we put on love and our misunderstanding of it that keeps on making us fall back into that loop. I brought this up to her because this is a topic I was broaching, trying to figure out, trying to navigate, in particular in this section of my story. Basically, what I'm doing is I am connecting it to the telecommunications revolutions that happen amongst different species across the history of the universe, and how that is intrinsically connected to telepathy, because they're both just different forms of frequency interpretation, signals, and how an entropic parasitic force steps in right before the telepathic breakthrough happens. Because you really do have to think, how is our interpretation of love going to change when we fully get telepathy? Which I will submit to you with full confidence that it's just around the corner. It can't be more than a couple decades off. We're going to have it very soon. But this knocked her on her ass. She was almost in tears. She's a very good friend of mine. I've known her for decades. Of course I love her. She's my friend. But she didn't understand what that actually meant. I don't either. I'm trying to figure it out, though. That's why I asked her. Think about it, guys. If we truly want to be with God, we have to understand what love actually is. Because God is love. So help me find the answer. Love y'all. Peace.